William Brangham, Judy Woodruff is away. On the News Hour tonight, the investigation. A judge grants former President Trump's request to appoint a special master to review the documents obtained in the FBI search of his Florida home. Then, a new leader. The United Kingdom's Conservative Party chooses Liz Truss to succeed Boris Johnson as Prime Minister and to tackle the nation's cost of living crisis. And after Roe, college students return to campus amid widespread uncertainty about their access to reproductive care.
Some universities are state-funded, some are privately funded, some are religious institutions, and so each university would be responding to this situation at a different level.
All that and more on tonight's PBS NewsHour. Major funding for the PBS NewsHour has been provided by... This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you. A federal judge today approved former President Donald Trump's request for an outside legal expert to review the many files that were seized by the FBI from his Florida home. That decision temporarily blocks federal prosecutors from using any of that evidence as they investigate whether Mr. Trump broke the law. For more on what this means, I am joined again by Carrie Johnson. She is the Justice Correspondent for NPR. Carrie, welcome back to the program. In the day's other news, a manhunt continues across much of Western Canada following one of the worst mass killings in that country's history. 2 men have been wanted for murder after more than 24 people were stabbed. Late today, Canadian police said at least one of the men is among the dead. The other is still at large. Here's how the day unfolded. The first call to police came early Sunday morning of a violent attack in the Canadian province of Saskatchewan. By midday, multiple attacks had been called in. 10 people had been stabbed to death and at least 18 more were injured at 13 locations across a sparsely populated Indigenous community. In short order, a manhunt began over hundreds of miles for 2 suspects, Damian Sanderson and Miles Sanderson. Some witnesses said the men are related, though that had not yet been confirmed. The 2 were reportedly spotted in the province's capital city of Regina Sunday afternoon, some 200 miles away from the scene of the assault. Later today, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau condemned the stabbings. He said mass violence has become all too commonplace. In Britain, the ruling Conservatives made Liz Truss their new leader today, setting her up to become Prime Minister. Truss is currently Foreign Secretary and strongly backs lower taxes and a smaller government. She'll be formally appointed tomorrow, replacing Boris Johnson, who was forced out over repeated ethnic scandals. We'll return to this after the news summary. The Supreme Court of Kenya has unanimously upheld William Ruto's narrow win in the August presidential election. Today's decision ended weeks of uncertainty. Opposition candidate Raila Odinga had alleged the vote was rigged, but the court rejected that claim. Odinga's lawyer said his team will abide by the ruling.
In accordance with the law, we got to accept this decision as the law of the land. But I think it is a very ideological decision. I think there are a lot of what was said in the judgment, and we'll have time when that judgment comes out to put out a critique.
Ruto is expected to be sworn in next week. Leaders in Chile are pondering a path forward after voters overwhelmingly rejected a new constitution. It would have mandated universal health care, indigenous rights, and environmental protections. But more than 60% of Sunday's voters opposed the charter amid criticism that it leaned too far to the left. The old constitution dates from the Pinochet dictatorship more than 40 years ago. The Israeli military acknowledged today there is, quote, a high probability that an Israeli soldier killed journalist Shireen Abu Akleh. The Al Jazeera reporter was fatally shot in the West Bank last May. The military says the soldier thought Akleh was a militant and that he will not be punished. At the time of the shooting, Akleh was wearing a helmet and a vest marked press. Back in this country, on this Labor Day, the governor of California signed a law granting new protections to more than 500,000 fast food workers. It creates a council that would set minimum standards for wages, hours, and working conditions. Supporters say they hope to inspire similar efforts across the country. Restaurant owners say it will drive up costs. And former New Orleans Mayor Moon Landrieu died today. He began his career in the early 1960s as a voice against racial segregation in Louisiana, but he won 2 terms as mayor with backing from black voters and white liberals. Later, he became the U.S. Housing Secretary and a federal appeals judge. His son Mitch also served as mayor of New Orleans, and a daughter, Mary, was a 3-term U.S. Senator. Moon Landrieu was 92 years old. Still to come on the NewsHour, other states look to follow California's lead on banning gas-powered cars and other vehicles. Tamara Keith and Amy Walter break down the latest political headlines. A Swedish island adored by tourists militarizes in the face of Russian threats, plus much more. This is the PBS NewsHour from WETA Studios in Washington and in the West from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism at Arizona State University. Since the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June, abortion has dominated the headlines. Questions over access abound in courtrooms, hospitals, and state houses, and now on college campuses. Amna Nawaz is back with more on the challenges ahead for the higher education community.
As the fall semester begins at colleges and universities across the country, students, parents, and higher ed health officials are grappling with how to navigate new restrictions on abortion. The NewsHour spoke with people on both sides of the debate over abortion access, about how the post-Roe landscape impacts their lives and choices as they go back to school.
I'm Marissa Pittman, a junior at Dulles University in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I'm 20 years old. This decision has significantly impacted me along with my community.
My name is Katie Gooding. I am a junior at Liberty University, and I'm 20 years old. Because Liberty is a very Christian and conservative school, we've been able to be extremely civil.
My name is Nimisha Shrikant. I am 21 years old, and I'm a senior public health major at Texas A&M University. It's difficult down in states where abortion is completely banned. There are no exceptions at all, like here in Texas.
I'm Anna Young. I'm 19 years old, and I am currently a sophomore at Concordia University, Wisconsin. On my campus, the consensus has been that we want to live in a post-Roe America.
I am Susan Ernst, and I am the Chief of Gynecology and Sexual Health at the University of Michigan. When I first heard that Roe versus Wade was overturned, was a feeling of frustration.
Hi, my name is Sophie Anderson Haney. I'm 18, and I'm a freshman at Agnes Scott College in Decatur, Georgia.
Hi, I'm Erin Haney. I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and I am the mother of Sophie.
When I heard Roe v. Wade was overturned, I immediately called my mom. We just talked about how mad it made us and how angry we felt.
If anything, I felt kind of relieved that she would be going to a women's college that really focuses on women's leadership. After the Supreme Court decision was leaked, the University of Michigan created a task force to address abortion access, both in the case of a ban on abortion or if abortion remained legal in certain states.
The United States has a history of denying rights, especially when it comes to one's health, from Black women. As student leaders, we are working with the administration to talk about more health options for our clinic on campus so that more reproductive services are offered for students who need them.
I am the co-leader of the Life Ministry on my campus, so we spend our Saturdays uplifting those nonviolent resources in the community, whether that's a maternity home, a pregnancy help organization, or any other nonprofit that steps in the gap in a post-Roe America. Georgia just passed a very strict abortion law that outlaws abortion after 6 weeks gestation. Agnes Scott College wants students to know that they're there to support them.
It's a very, very supportive community, and their communication is excellent. I guess I just want to say that we're in a position of incredible privilege. The fact that I can choose to send her out of state, that she can choose a college out of state, most people don't have a choice.
So the overall guidance from Texas A&M has been none. There were no emails sent out. The student health services didn't say anything. So my organization is called Feminists for Reproductive Equity and Education, or Free Aggies for short. So we are the reproductive justice organization on campus. So we will hold educational meetings talking about reproductive justice topics.
We've had multiple students who have gone through an abortion. I've known a couple individuals who have thought about it, but Liberty actually has their own crisis pregnancy center. They have what they call their godparent home, which will help students who end up in a crisis pregnancy be able to still continue their education while also still living near the campus and having those resources available to them.
We're looking at every aspect of campus life that could be impacted by this decision. Teaching in the academic environment, how we support students, what students are concerned about and will need in these situations.
Young people are fighting the good fight. We're on the ground. We're doing the work. There are so many people that are still committed and passionate about this work. I know so many of my peers who are continuing to do good for the community no matter what is going on. And I think that it is young people that are leading today's movement that are fighting these different fights, because it is going to be our country soon. Not soon, but it is our country right now.
And we're joined now by Bayless Fitteman. She's Director of Educational Equity at the National Women's.
Tensions between Russia and Sweden are high following the Scandinavian nation's application for NATO membership earlier this year. Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned NATO against beefing up its presence in the region. And these tensions have special significance for the idyllic Swedish island of Gotland, located in the Baltic Sea. Special correspondent Malcolm Brabant reports.
This summer, ferries have been full of passengers in vacation mood. During the 3-hour voyage from the mainland to Gotland, there were no visible qualms about heading to the island's medieval capital, said to be in Russia's crosshairs. The Russian enclave of Kaliningrad is just over 200 miles away in that direction across the Baltic Sea. Amid a flurry of very threatening rhetoric in June, Russia based medium-range missiles there, which are capable of reaching Sweden. In the event of the war in Ukraine escalating, NATO sources think it's distinctly possible that Gotland could become a front line. It's another face. It's now a garrison. Sweden has been steadily reinforcing its defences, and earlier this summer, NATO war-gamed a possible Russian invasion. The island's location makes it a key strategic target.
Well, Gotland is situated in the middle of the Baltics. From Gotland, you could easily control both air and sea movements in the south of the Baltic Sea.
Magnus Frykvall leads the Gotland regiment. He insists the Russian threat is not imaginary.
Everything is much more real, and we have seen what Russia is prepared to do to neighboring countries.
It's precisely because of the Russian threat to vulnerable regions like Gotland that Sweden sought to join NATO, although Turkey's parliament has yet to ratify the deal.
This process is what course of action is best serving Sweden's security, and I am convinced that this is the right decision.
It is clear that Sweden and Finland's membership in NATO would boost transatlantic security. It will enable closer Nordic and closer Baltic defense cooperation, and it will strengthen the alliance's presence in the high north.
Vladimir Putin treated...
He's busy in Ukraine, having his own Afghanistan again, and if ever Gotland were to be invaded or as a target, it would be in a general war between NATO and Russia, and that is, happily enough, I think, not going to happen.
Is there a danger of underestimating Russia's power and its military intentions?
I think there is always a danger of underestimating the Putin regime, because it is the Putin regime and its potential military danger, and that's how I see it. So I feel safer because of NATO. I never felt scared or anything about the situation. It's stupid men making stupid talk. That's how I see it. So I sleep comfortably at night.
It's so That's what I can do. And to vote, of course.
Meg Folin is hoping to become Gotland's next mayor in forthcoming elections. She used to be an advocate of neutrality, but now she's not so sure.
If it was only up to me, sit this out, stay to what we always have done. We have a long time policy when it comes to security and peace. I also know that I haven't got the full picture, of course, when it comes to the security policy on a national level, and I in that also rely very much in those who actually have.
Sweden's NATO membership isn't a done deal. Turkey might yet defy its alliance partners and wield a veto. Former UN Ambassador Pierre Scordi.
We are changing the dynamics in the Baltics by joining NATO into a more dangerous situation, because now the Baltics will be almost a NATO sea. And of course the Russians will somehow react, and we should not contribute to that. That's why I'm saying, if you want to get rid of guns, you don't join the National Rifle Association.
For the time being, though, Gotland remains as delightful as ever.
Changing the dynamics in the Baltics by joining NATO into a more dangerous situation, because now the Baltics will be almost a NATO sea. And of course the Russians will somehow react, and we should not contribute to that. That's why I'm saying, if you want to get rid of guns, you don't join the National Rifle Association.
For the time being, though, Gotland remains as delightful as ever. The only invaders are tourists. But for young people, the future is much more precarious than it was for their ancestors. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm Malcolm Brabant in Gotland.
Vera Hall is a quilter and seamstress based in Baltimore and has, for decades, crafted a wide array of items. But more recently, Hall decided to combine her artistry with her desire to learn more about her own ancestry by creating powerful quilts depicting Black history. Tonight, she shares her brief but spectacular take on piecing the past to the future. It's part of our Arts and Culture series, Canvas.
Quilts kind of reflect what's going on in society, and certain styles go out and come back in. And if you look at quilts from history, you will see a style repeat itself, and you'll see people repeat behaviors over and over again. The needle and thread has always been a passion in my life since preschool age. When I first made a quilt with my grandmother, we started out to make a block, because that's how quilts are put together. It wasn't big enough to be called a quilt, but it was a sense of accomplishment that I felt when I did that block. I'm 85 years old. 85 years ago in the country, in North Carolina, we didn't have a lot of fabric. And the fabrics that we saw back then were feed sack fabrics. But I managed to make some pretty decent looking quilts even with that. The Guild was doing a block of the month project, and it involved two kinds of blocks. One was teacups, and the other one was Civil War blocks. And I said, I know what I'm going to do. What did Black folks do to free themselves? I want to find that out. So I chose a title for that first one from Langston Hughes, and it was We Too Sing America. By that I meant Black people, as well as anybody else, worked hard to make America what it is. Just saying, this is the fact. And you didn't learn it in school because it wasn't taught to us. I can't do the work as fast as I used to, but I have a lot of ideas that I would like to try out. And I'm sure I won't be around long enough to try them all, but I hope that my quilts will serve as a way to say that there are no parameters to what a Black quilter can do, but they encompass all different styles and techniques. And I think you can see all the different styles and techniques if you look at my spectrum of quilts. They're parallel, the activism and the quilting, because both of them have always been a part of my life. Because if you don't do anything while you're here, you can't expect society to improve. I am Vera Hall, and this is my brief but spectacular take on piecing the past to the future. Work as fast as I used to, but I have a lot of ideas that I would like to try out, and I'm sure I won't be around long enough to try them all, but I hope that my quilts will serve as a way to say that there are no parameters to what a black quilter can do, but they encompass all different styles and techniques, and I think you can see all the different styles and techniques if you look at my spectrum of quilts. They're parallel, the activism and the quilting, because both of them have always been a part of my life. Because if you don't do anything while you're here, you can't expect society to improve. I am Vera Hall, and this is my brief but spectacular take on piecing the past to the future.
You can watch more brief but spectacular videos at pbs.org/newshour/brief. And that is the News Hour for tonight. I'm William Brangham. Join us online and again here tomorrow evening. For all of us at the PBS News Hour, thank you. We hope you have a great Labor Day.
Major funding for the PBS News Hour has been provided by Consumer Cellular's goal has been to provide wireless service that helps more. Visit consumercellular.tv. Through investments in transforming it, more at candidafund.org. Don D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, committed to building a more just, verdant, and peaceful world. More information at macfound.org. This program was made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers